Hamburger pie casserole was a staple of home cooking in the 1960s, built around convenience and tight household budgets. It layered ground beef, canned soup, and sometimes mashed potatoes into a single baked dish meant to mimic familiar burger flavors. For a while, practicality mattered more than taste. As fresher ingredients became more accessible and cooking habits shifted, families moved back to simpler meals, and hamburger pie gradually faded from everyday use. Hot dog casserole mixed sliced hot dogs with elbow macaroni, melted cheese, and canned vegetables, all baked together in one dish. It showed up regularly at potlucks and family dinners throughout the 1960s because it was cheap and easy to prepare. Over time, the texture, especially after reheating, became its biggest flaw. As expectations around convenience foods improved, the dish slowly dropped out of rotation. McDonald's introduced the hula burger in 1962 as a meatless option for Catholic customers who avoided beef on Fridays. Instead of a patty, the sandwich used a grilled pineapple slice topped with cheese. At the same time, a franchise owner developed the filet-o-fish to solve the same problem. When both were tested, customers overwhelmingly preferred the fish sandwich. The hula burger disappeared almost immediately, becoming one of McDonald's shortest-lived ideas. Beef fudge appeared in a 1967 Pillsbury cookbook as part of a broader trend toward protein-enhanced foods. The recipe combined chocolate fudge with ground beef, and it was presented as a way to balance sweetness and nutrition. While it aligned with contemporary food theory, the dense texture and clashing flavors made it hard to love. It lived on more as a curiosity than as something people actually cooked again. Celery-flavored Jell-O was introduced in the early 1960s as part of a broader push towards savory gelatin dishes. It was intended for molded salads that included vegetables, meats, and mayonnaise. The strong vegetal flavor and bitter aftertaste limited its appeal. As savory gelatin dishes fell out of fashion, celery Jell-O disappeared along with other similar flavors. Burger King introduced the Yumbo in 1968 as a hot ham and cheese alternative to burgers, served on a warm roll and packaged to stay hot. It developed a small but loyal following, but it never fit Burger King's flame-grilled identity. By the mid-1970s, the chain narrowed its focus and quietly removed it from the menu. General Mills introduced breakfast squares in the 1970s as a convenient alternative to traditional breakfast foods. They were dense, cake-like bars fortified with vitamins and minerals, sold in flavors such as chocolate and cinnamon. The idea was to offer a complete breakfast in portable form. While the concept appealed to busy households, many found the texture dry and the flavor unremarkable. As granola bars gained popularity later in the decade, breakfast squares lost their place. Planters Jumbo Block was a dense peanut candy bar released in the 1970s. It combined roasted peanuts and nougat, coated in chocolate, and leaned heavily on the trusted Planters name. Many consumers found it overly heavy and sweet. In a candy aisle dominated by established favorites, it struggled to stand out and quietly disappeared by the early 1980s. Canned hamburgers attempted to preserve an entire burger as a shelf-stable product. The bun, patty, and condiments were sealed and cooked together inside a metal can. While functional for emergency or military use, the texture of the bread and meat limited broader appeal. It remained a fringe novelty rather than a mainstream food. Space food sticks were introduced in the 1970s by Pillsbury, and they were marketed as energy snacks inspired by astronaut rations. They came in flavors like peanut butter, caramel, and chocolate, and they relied heavily on space-age branding. Once the novelty faded, the dense texture and mild flavor offered little reason to return. By the early 1980s, they were gone. Kugel was introduced in 1971 as a line of flavored peanut butters aimed at children, with options like chocolate, cinnamon, and banana. The product leaned heavily on playful branding and a cartoon mascot. While the idea sounded fun, many families found the flavors overly artificial and quickly returned to traditional peanut butter. By the end of the decade, Kugel had quietly disappeared from grocery shelves. Chiffon margarine appeared in the 1970s as interest in health-conscious eating began to grow. It was marketed as a lighter, fluffier alternative to traditional margarine. made with vegetable-based fats, and designed to spread easily. The airy texture was meant to signal modernity, but many consumers found it artificial and lacking flavor. As skepticism toward heavily processed foods increased, chiffon failed to build long-term loyalty. In 1976, Betty Crocker launched Muggo Lunch as a line of instant pasta meals designed for maximum convenience. The packets contained macaroni and cheese and spaghetti, and they required only hot water to prepare. The idea targeted quick meals at home or at work. As competition in instant foods increased and quality expectations rose, Muggo Lunch struggled to stand out and was eventually phased out. Snackmate cheese was an aerosol cheese product introduced by Kraft in the 1970s. It became popular as a novelty for snacking, especially at parties and children's events. Spraying cheese directly onto crackers or celery was part of the fun. By the 1980s, growing awareness of processed foods shifted public perception. The gimmick lost its appeal, and the original formulation was gradually retired. Aid's Diet Candy was marketed as an appetite suppressant during the 1970s. The caramel-flavored lozenges were heavily promoted, and they initially sold extremely well. In the early 1980s, the product name became associated with the AIDS epidemic, triggering an immediate collapse in sales. Rebranding attempts failed, and growing health concerns about the ingredients sealed its fate by the mid-1980s. In 1974, Gerber launched Gerber Singles, a line of pureed meals intended for adults. The meals were packaged in jars identical to baby food and marketed to busy individuals who wanted quick, no-cook options. Consumers struggled to accept both the texture and presentation. The backlash was swift, and the product was removed from shelves within a year. Crazy Cow cereal arrived in 1977 with a built-in magic trick. Each puff was coated in a powder that instantly turned the milk chocolate or strawberry the moment it was poured. For kids, that transformation was the whole appeal. But once the color change wore off, there was not much left to enjoy. The cereal itself was bland, and parents were not impressed. When the novelty faded, so did interest, and Crazy Cow quietly disappeared in the early 1980s. The Reggie bar launched in 1978, riding a wave of celebrity hype tied to baseball star Reggie Jackson. The debut was dramatic, and fans famously threw bars onto the field during opening games. Under the wrapper, though, it was a familiar mix of peanuts, caramel, and chocolate. Without a distinct identity of its own, excitement dropped fast. By the early 1980s, the bar was gone. During the 1980s, Colgate attempted an ambitious brand expansion by introducing a line of frozen dinners under its own name. On paper, the move followed standard corporate logic. In practice, consumers could not separate the brand from toothpaste. The idea of minty associations colliding with lasagna and chicken dinners proved too strong. The line failed quickly, and it became a textbook example of brand mismatch. Frito-Lay Breakfast Mates appeared in the 1990s as an all-in-one breakfast kit for people on the move. Each package included bacon, eggs, syrup, a toaster pastry, and a small carton of shelf-stable milk. While the concept promised convenience, the execution confused shoppers. Cold eggs, unrefrigerated milk, and mismatched components did not fit real breakfast habits. The product struggled to find a place in morning routines and did not last. McDonald's introduced the Arch Deluxe in 1996 as a premium burger designed specifically for adults. The company backed it with an enormous marketing campaign focused on sophistication and grown-up taste. Early tests were promising, but in restaurants, customers stuck with cheaper, familiar options. The Arch Deluxe never found a consistent audience and was removed by 2000, becoming one of McDonald's most expensive miscalculations. Lay's WOW chips launched in 1998 during the height of the low-fat diet craze. Made with the fat substitute Olestra, they promised guilt-free snacking and delivered massive early sales. That success didn't last. Reports of digestive side effects led to mandatory warning labels, and public trust collapsed almost overnight. Rebranding efforts couldn't undo the damage, and the product faded quickly. Heinz EZ Squirt Ketchup arrived in 2000, offering bright green, purple, and blue ketchup in squeeze bottles. At first, kids loved it, and sales surged. Over time, the novelty wore thin. Mixed colors turned unappetizing, and parents grew tired of neon plates. By 2006, the experiment was over, leaving Easy Squirt behind as a nostalgic reminder of how far food gimmicks once went. These failed foods show that innovation alone is not enough. Successful products still need to fit consumer expectations around taste, familiarity, and everyday use. Let us know in the comments what we should cover next. Thanks for watching.